Have you ever set up some dominoes where you just touched the first one and it fell and hit the next one and next one? So that's kind of how hormones work. Something in our body, either outside the body or within the body, sets off a chain reaction that tells our body to create a hormone. And then that hormone helps us through whatever we're facing at the moment. In other words, we might have a hormone release that helps prepare a woman's body for childbirth. So plants also have hormones, and the hormones are stimulated by something that happens within the plant or something that happens without the plant, outside of the plant. So there's two main groups of hormones. We have growth promoting hormones and we have wounding stress hormones. Now, wounding stress sounds like, oh, that must be a bad hormone, but it's not. All of these hormones are actually to help the plant. So first, let's talk about growth promoting hormones. Do you remember us talking about phototropism? Do you remember what phototropism is? It was one of your quiz questions. It is movement in response to light. It's not movement of the light itself. It's the plant's movement in response to light. And that happens because of what growth promoting hormone? If you said auxins, good memory. You're correct. So our main growth promoting hormone is going to be auxins. So you know a couple of things about auxins already. You know that auxins build up on the shady side of a plant. You also know that auxins break down naturally after about 2 hours. And you know that sunlight will break down auxins, which is why they build up in the shady side of the plant. So you already know a few things about auxins. Auxins promote cell elongation, root growth, and also adventitious root growth. Adventitious root growth means that roots will start on a plant somewhere other than the root tissue, such as the meristem, which makes the root caps, blah, blah, blah. So adventitious roots don't happen in the root tissue. They're roots that start elsewhere, such as on the stem. So if you ever take a cutting, like from your grandmother's plant, and you want to plant it at your house, a lot of people will put it in water or put it in soil and let some roots start growing from that stem. If you actually dip it in a little jar of Rootone, it will make roots faster and more reliable. It will make adventitious roots faster and more reliably. So guess what Rootone is? You can go buy it for about $6 or $7 at the garden store. Rootone is actually auxins. So auxins also, besides cell elongation, root growth, it also promotes adventitious roots. And hopefully you remember that term, even though we just talked about it. Hopefully you remember that term from your chapter 2 reading way back in the beginning of class. So there is a commercial use for auxins. Just because something is good, a little of something is good, doesn't mean a lot of it is good, okay? There's actually an herbicide called 2,4-D. So if you go buy 2,4-D, that's considered a broadleaf weed killer, okay? If you go buy it and you spray it out on your lawn, it's going to kill the broadleaf weeds. It's going to leave your lawn grass alone, but it's going to kill those broadleaf weeds. So it's an herbicide that kills plants, and it's made of auxins. How does it work? A little is good, a lot is not better. It actually makes the plant overgrow itself to death. So that's how 2,4-D works. So auxins is good. And remember, we're always going to look at the flip side. Too much can be bad. Bad for the plant, good for us because we can use it to kill weeds. It's also involved in abscission. Really, I just want you to know what abscission means, which is fruit drop, leaf drop, whenever anything drops off the plant. And that's a pretty good overview of auxins. So now let's look. There are some other growth promoting hormones. I'm just going to list them. I want you to recognize them, but we're not going to cover these, all these in detail. Just remember, as far as growth promoting, our main one is going to be auxin. Your other growth promoting hormones are going to be gibberellins. Now this one, actually, you're going to hear this again. So I'm going to put some stars by it. Gibberellins. It sounds like something that's in your Thanksgiving turkey before you cook it. But anyway, gibberellins is a growth promoting hormone, and you're going to need to recognize that word as a growth promoting hormone. Cytokinins, which we're not, it doesn't look like it's spelled correctly, but it is, and brassinosteroids, which we're not going to go into all of those, but just kind of recognize those are growth promoting hormones. So now let's talk about your wounding and your stress hormones. So wounding stress hormones, first is going to be aging hormone. Your aging hormone is going to be ethylene. So what is one thing, I hope y'all can read that. What is one thing that can stimulate the production of ethylene? Well, the being exposed to ethylene. Y'all know the saying, one bad apple ruins a bunch? It's because when something like a fruit or a vegetable, when it ages, it actually is aging because of ethylene. And so it's also producing ethylene, which is what's making it age. And when other plants get exposed to that, other apples get exposed to that ethylene, it stimulates them to make their own ethylene to start aging. So aging is good because it leads to ripening, but aging can be bad because it also leads to rotting. It's just the natural progression to go from, you get ripe and then you rot. So ethylene, I will tell you a story, and I wish I knew where this happened. I'm going to have to review it. Maybe y'all can find out. Try to Google this. But there was a town where all the trees were dying. All the leaves were falling off. The trees were dying. And no one could figure out why, what disease they had. Turns out they did not have a disease. It was actually an ethylene leak at some manufacturing plant. So it was leaking ethylene. It was making the trees prematurely age and die. So that's kind of there's always a good and a flip side. So that's ethylene. You can use ethylene commercially to promote abscission. Do you remember what abscission is? It is leaf drop or fruit drop. Now, why, if you're a farmer, do you want to promote abscission? Mainly so that you can, and you also want to promote ripening. Basically, you want all of your product, all your peaches, all your apples, to ripen at one time and to drop at one time so they can be easily harvested at one time. That's just the most efficient. Now, in your own garden, you really don't want that because you can only store so much at one time. You want it to go over a long period of time. But as a farmer, to be more efficient, you would want abscission all at one time. So ethylene can be used for that commercially. All right, survival, ABA. And I'm going to put a star by this because you're going to see it again. So this stands for abscisic acid. ABA, abscisic acid. So what does this do? This actually inhibits growth. Why would you want to inhibit growth? Well, if all of a sudden something happens and your conditions for growth are not optimum, you want your plant to slow down and not to grow. If it doesn't have the resources to grow properly, you don't just want it to die, you just want it to slow the growth down and wait until it does get the nutrients or the moisture or whatever it needs. So, ABA is what kicks in a drought or any time that your plant just needs to hold back a little bit and wait on the better growing conditions. So it just kind of holds it in place, doesn't allow it to grow. So ABA, you're going to see that again. Jasminots are your defense hormone. So when do these kick in? Anytime your plant is attacked, you've probably heard people talk about how plants can talk to each other. Well, plants do not have pain receptors and things like that. So I don't want you to think that a plant is actually in distress in the same way that we would be or communicate necessarily in the same way we are. But plants do suffer from stress, such as being attacked by insects, or disease, and they will actually put out a hormone that other plants can sense so that other plants can go ahead and put their defenses up. And that's how we get insect hardy plants or disease hardy plants, things like that. The jasminots is actually how the plants can talk to each other and say, hey, we're under attack, put your defenses up, It's too late for me, but maybe not for you, that kind of thing. So anyway, those are your 3 main wound and stress hormones, your growth promoting hormones, and I hope you have a great day. Watch your next video, which is going to be planting seeds, and then you got a really awesome video about the seed vault. Watch that. This is a really fun section. Talk to you next time.